What's up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or, of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel. That is Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me for yet another episode of the UNC Football Show, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones, and AJ here for Notre Dame week. Big week for the Tar Heels. Massive game in Chapel Hill this weekend, 3:30 p.m. kickoff in Kenan Stadium on Saturday. That game will be on ABC. So I know it's one that Carolina fans are really looking forward to. And obviously the program is really looking forward to as well. AJ, we're going to preview the matchup a little bit later. We're going to hit on some kind of week storylines, not only from this week, but going back to Carolina's bye week last week as well. And AJ, here's where I want to start. Let's start with some of the injury front news and updates. Like I said, that even stretch back to the Georgia State game and beyond. As of right now, based on the updates we've gotten, Caleb Hood, Josh Downs, and Antoine Green are all practicing. And the training staff is basically just waiting to see how they respond throughout the week to going full speed. So those statuses still up in the air as of right now. Myles Murphy and Spencer Rowland are back practicing, and that even stretches back to last week. So you're expecting those guys to play on Saturday as well. Any insight, any information you can give us on the injury front, AJ, in regards to those 5 players in particular?
Well, we've reported on our site on the premium message boards that you can access for $8.33 a month. That
Heck of a deal. Heck of a deal.
Our clear understanding has been that Josh definitely going to play. Everything is trending that way for Antoine. If you listen to what Drake Maye said Tuesday night before he made the NC State comment, he basically said Antoine will be on the field and all that. So I think the expectation is they're going to play. If they're just checking to see how they respond to everything, that means, okay, everything is pretty much given a go. They just want to see how the body parts respond to full speed stuff.
Yeah.
So what do they feel like this evening? What do they feel like tomorrow morning? And then Thursday evening, and then Thursday morning or Friday morning, and so on. That would tell me that everything's go. So Mac even said earlier today, Wednesday, when we spoke to him, that they could be fully clear, but if the player doesn't feel 100% ready, they don't want to maybe risk it, then they're not going to play him. So I don't see anybody, I can't anticipate anybody doing that for a Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
So my expectation is that all of them will play this weekend.
Yeah, they're all 5, huge kind of guys for the Tar Heels. Caleb Hood has looked good this year in that running back rotation. Josh Downs, Carolina's best receiver. Antoine Green, experienced guy that, Mac Brown's called an NFL guy in recent weeks, played a ton of football at North Carolina. And obviously Myles Murphy and Spencer Rowland have been integral to what Carolina is trying to do on the defensive line and the offensive line as well.
All starters except Hood. And the last time we saw Hood, he was getting dragged to the earth after running 71 yards. And one of the reasons he got dragged was because he aggravated the hammy. So
big players, man. And against Notre Dame, guys. Yeah, against Notre Dame, you need those guys. So that's positive news for the Tar Heels. AJ, let's hit on, you mentioned Drake Maye. Let's go to that. Comments that were made by him on Tuesday evening during his press conference. I tweeted it out on Wednesday, the day we're recording this, after Mac Brown's press conference, where I thought he really handled it well and really hit the nail on the head of, we just unfortunately live in a culture today where any kind of negative words, especially in football, where trash talking used to be kind of widely accepted and almost, people welcomed trash talk. Can't really do that anymore in college sports. Drake Maye basically saying that, people only go to NC State because they can't get into Carolina. I get where people can take that out of context, but AJ, what are your thoughts on the comments? Because I've got the hashtag on Twitter right now, hashtag bring back trash talk. And that's kind of how I stand on it. I kind of wish we got more of that and people didn't have to come out and apologize for saying stuff like that.
Well, first of all, there's a couple ways to approach this. Number one, there's actually been criticism of some people in the media who put it out there. I'm sitting right there in front of Drake when he said it. I didn't think a whole lot of it, to be perfectly honest with you, because I'm old enough to have been around where a lot worse stuff has been said about rivals, and you just kind of shrug it off like big deal, whatever. That's just normal dialogue. But he did say it during his Q&A session. If he would have waited till we stopped and then said it, I don't think it would have gotten out there, because that stuff's kind of private. and it stays where it is. That's part of the responsibility of being in the media. But there's been some criticism for some people in the media that have put it out, and there shouldn't be, because he did say it, and he did say it in a formal situation. So I fully support my fellow members of the media that put it out there. I don't think that they were clickbaiting or anything like that. He said it. It was noteworthy enough. By the time I did my Drake Maye report Tuesday night, it had already been out there for a while. So all I did was paraphrase in the report and note that he already apologized. And almost as soon as the apology went out, we retweeted it. And then Wednesday, the first thing I did after we finished with Mac is I put up a report about what Mac said. I put Drake's tweet and apology in there and the full quote that he said on Tuesday about NC State. I agree with you. I think trash talk is great because they're thinking it. And they talk about it when the media is not around. I think it's, within reason, I think it's perfectly fine. I'll never forget. Chuck Amato and John Bunning going back and forth. And I remember having a one-on-one interview with Chuck Amato in his office for 2 hours one day. And a good chunk of that he spent talking about John Bunning. Wasn't he like me? Why is he always saying the stuff he says? And it was just fantastic.
Hell of a Chuck Amato impression.
It was great. That's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So a lot of NC State fans are taking it the way they should take it. I think it's fun. It'd be great if Peyton Wilson said something about Carolina and Drake Maye. We can get this thing going. It would make it more fun. But I get why Carolina had to apologize. Although I wonder if that exacerbated the situation. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know.
I agree.
But to me, it's only a story because it's a story. But if it was my world and I was king of the universe, it would have been, whatever, move on. Yeah. It wasn't the most important thing he said. I think there were a lot more important things Drake said Tuesday. And some of those things were in the report Tuesday night and will be in some of the stories we roll out the next few days.
Yeah, I mean, you see it too much around the country with college sports now. You've seen it with Texas where you can't do the hook 'em down horns anymore because for some reason it's not allowed. It's just little things like that. The
gig 'em down. Josh Downs did that in the Orange Bowl.
Can't do it anymore.
Who cares? We're not allowed to have fun. The fun police have been out in full throttle here for a while in this country. Yeah. Not really allowed to have fun anymore. The social media police are out there. Nobody was hurt by what he said.
No. It's trash talk, man. It's friendly, It's
and nobody's hurt by the stuff NC State fans have said in response to it.
Yeah. I think, we could talk about it all day. I just think people get, like Max said, I think he hit it on the head. People are just looking for things to get outraged about, especially on Twitter. If you want to just go into an outrage pool, just, wait. I was basically, when I saw that video go out, just sat back and kind of ate my popcorn. Like, let's just go ahead and look at these mentions because it's about to pop off. And, 2 hours later, Drake Maye had issued an apology because of everything. So we're not going to hit the nail on the head. Like I said, I think we should hashtag bring back trash talking. Hopefully,
I'll tell you what.
I don't think that's going to happen.
One last thing on this, Jacob. One last thing on this. If I ever really need to feel good about myself, I just go to Twitter.
That's a good point. That's a good point, man.
And voila, I'm all right. Everything's cool. I'm checking all the necessary boxes.
Yeah, it's just
I'm not that guy.
It's just, it seems like everything just gets taken way too out of context, but we'll save that conversation for another day because we could talk about that for an hour. AJ, moving on a little bit, another individual in Carolina football team I want to hit on, Don Chapman. This goes back a couple of weeks as well. I know Don, for those Carolina fans who don't know, I'm sure everybody does at this point, in the week leading up to the Georgia State game, it was announced that he had been arrested, charged with a couple of different things. There was a lot of as everything came out, a lot of speculation from Carolina fans. We had reported it, just reporting the facts of what had happened. As of right now, Don Chapman remains on the team. He did not make the trip to Georgia State, but is on the team after some news and other things resurfaced about exactly what happened that night, which is a huge mantra. Why I'm a huge mantra, and everybody should be, is innocent until proven guilty. You got to hear the full story first before you should pass judgment. So, AJ, what can you tell us about the Don Chapman situation and kind of how things have gone on over the last, I guess, week and a half or 2 weeks now?
Well, Carolina's done its due diligence. They have come up with a lot of information, and what they have learned is that there's no reason to take football and school away from him. And I think a lot of this is based on what the attorneys have also told them and what they're working at doing. I have multiple sources that have confirmed that Chapman's attorneys are working to get the charges dropped and believe that the charges will be dropped. So because of the information that would lead to that, that's the information Carolina has, which is why he is still on the team, and he will play this weekend, and he should play this weekend. They could use him. They need a little bit more help in the secondary. They need another body back. They need a guy that can play safety and star. He was getting a lot of work at star as well in August. So I know that a lot of people would love to see DeAndre Boykin slide over to corner every once in a while because and maybe have Chapman play some star. You never know. You never know what they've done during the open week, but he has been practicing, and they're very, very confident that the charges will be dropped and nothing will be on his record. And in time, this will pass. And on a side note, another source told me that there's a lot of confidence that his girlfriend is getting the necessary attention she needs, and that a lot of learning could be done from this. And fortunately, what could have been a very, very awful situation might end up not ultimately being that. So hopefully positives for everybody moving forward in the situation, in something that was not positive at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. It's really positive news for Don Chapman. And like you said, hopefully his girlfriend, that all ends up working itself out, getting the help she needs. And, everybody will go on to live happily ever after. AJ, let's keep it moving. Before we head into Notre Dame, I want to ask you one more quick thing. Something I think has been kind of the theme of some of the press conferences this week, especially from Mac. He's talked a lot about bye week progress. Talking about how this team made some progress during the bye week. To quote him directly, we focused on just little things, which I think when you go back and look at Carolina's first few games, is something that they needed to focus on. They needed to clean some little things up, some fundamental things, some basic things of football that they weren't doing very well. AJ, for you and what you've heard this week, what is that progress, and how important could last week's bye week end up being, not only for this team going into Saturday, but going into a really tough stretch ahead as they get ready to dive into ACC play?
Well, they need to get better in a lot of areas, and that's been a point of emphasis. They did a full reevaluation of all three phases, and they even brought in some outside people to scout them and to critique them. And they believed that they were completely honest with stuff, and some of those things were not all that pretty. The secondary issues have been considerable. It's something that the program hasn't shied away from. They've been open and honest about the problems back there, but they pretty much narrowed it down to communication. And I thought Gio Biggers on Tuesday did a fantastic job of explaining to us really what the crux of the problem is. And he said, in the first three games, they played teams that Carolina outmanned. Teams that just don't line up and just beat them, every snap in a traditional sense. So they apply a lot of eye candy. They apply a lot of shifts and motions and a little more than your traditional teams do. And he said that they had trouble recognizing when to pass something off. For example, Jacob would say, he said, so if I'm looking at you and you're my assignment and you're what my responsibility is, I have to know where somebody else is because my responsibility may shift because of the movement, the excessive movement in pre-snap. And he said they weren't doing a very good job of that. So when someone would lose that movement and their assignment would shift as a result of the movement, the play would break up. That's what happened on the two long touchdowns at Georgia State. And if you could see in the film of those touchdowns with TV broadcast, soon as both of them ended, Cedric Gray was really upset. And one of the things was with Chris Collins, who was playing the jack. He should have been in coverage. So it's not just the safeties. It's not just the corners. It's the defense in general. It's communicating lots of pre-snap stuff better than they have. Pre-snap was a problem last year, but one notable sign of improvement is this team they're not staring at the sidelines when the ball snapped like last year's team did a lot. So they're certainly ahead of that. But they believe that they made some progress. But I asked Mac on Monday, I said, okay, so you think you're making progress during the week, but is this really something where you just have to see it play out in a game to really know if they made progress? And he said, yes. And I asked Gene Chizik a similar question. He said, well, I think we've improved the last 4 games, but yes, ultimately we have to see it applied in a game, and they're going to have that chance on Saturday. So I think that that's number one. Number two, on the other side of the ball, as Phil Longo said, an area of concern has been their short yard, their running on first and second down. And I went and crunched the numbers. We're going to run the piece a little bit later this week, but they've run the ball. Now, I'll give you a snapshot of it. I'm not going to give the whole thing away right now. They've run the ball 94 times on first and second down. 54 of those times they have 3 yards or less. So they need to be more consistent because they're putting Drake in a lot of third and longs. Now, I asked Drake about that Tuesday night, and he said, we've been pretty good on third down, but you don't want to have to try to be that team against Notre Dame, against Virginia Tech, which has a really good defense, against Miami. They're going to face 3 really good defenses the next 3 weeks. So third and long may work against Georgia State and App and FAMU, but it's going to be a lot more challenging in the next 3. So they have to run the ball better on first and second down. So Drake can use more of what's in the bag on third down to be able to convert and move the chains. And if they move the chains, what happens, Jacob? The offense can get into tempo. When they get into tempo, that's when they are most successful. That's when they can be electrifying and they could pop in a variety of ways.
Agreed. Great stuff, AJ. Great breakdown there. I think it's something we're going to continue to watch. And I think Carolina's really going to be tested more than they have been so far this season against Notre Dame to see if they have improved in those aspects, specific aspects of the team. AJ, before we dive into Notre Dame, dive into the preview, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor on this podcast. If you guys have been watching the Carolina Football Show, UNC Football Show, we love them. They're the sponsor of this specific podcast we've got rolling out. It's myperfectfranchise.net. Guys, if you're, the job market right now, it's been a little bit crazy over the past few months, even going back further than that. Prices have shot up everywhere. It just seems like everything's, so many different things are kind of changing in terms of job market, in terms of, pricing, shopping, food prices, all that jazz. But if you want to take control of your own career path, right now is a great time to do so. And you can do that with myperfectfranchise.net. The amount of times I've driven around, see franchises pop up, and I've always wondered, well, how does that get there? How does that pop up here? And there's one here and there's one there. You can do that with myperfectfranchise.net and take control of your own career path. Andy Ludicky, he's the founder and owner, longtime Rivals member, and a diehard college football fan. Most importantly, a franchise veteran as well, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. And what he does, using his expertise, is he helps others find their American dream through a thorough and free consultation process to see if potentially starting a franchise is right for you guys. 100% free. You can put your life and your career path in your own hands. Again, 100% free consultation process. Just call Andy. What do you really have to lose? If you do end up talking to Andy Ludicky, make sure you tell him that Tar Heel Illustrated sent you. And guys, massive Mac Brown fan as well. So I'm sure if you end up talking to him, you'll probably end up talking a little Carolina football as well. Check him out, myperfectfranchise.net. Put your career path in your own hands today. I really couldn't think of a better time to do so. Link is in the description below. Big thank you and shout out to Andy. Really excited to continue to partner with him moving in to the rest of the season. But AJ, let's break down Notre Dame. This is obviously a big part of what this podcast is about. I got a few notes I'm going to rattle off before I kick it to you. Looking at Notre Dame's this year, I know there's been a lot of talk about some of their struggles early on, and we're going to dive into that. 1-2 overall so far. Losses at Ohio State and a home loss to Marshall, followed by a win over California last weekend. Diving into the specific matchup with Carolina, they had Notre Dame is a thing that Mac Brown rattled off on Wednesday, has won 19 straight regular season ACC games over ACC opponents. That's a hell of a stat. 20-2 overall versus North Carolina, and they've won 4 straight over the Tar Heels as well. So a series they just absolutely dominated. There's really no other way to put it. Diving into this year's specific team a little bit more, without starting quarterback Tyler Buchner, sophomore Drew Pine is expected to start and did start last weekend over California. Had a pretty good second half against the Golden Bears as well. Number 59 overall defense for Notre Dame, letting up 351 yards per game. Carolina, on contrast, number 123 out of 131 teams, allowing over 468 yards per game. So over 100-yard difference between the two. Notre Dame's offense, 114 in total offense out of 131 teams, a team that offensively has struggled this season, especially with a backup quarterback. 300 yards per game. North Carolina sitting at number 5 overall in total offense. Heck of a year for them so far with 547 yards per game. AJ, I'll rattle off a couple of guys and players to watch and a couple other things a little bit later on. But what are your overall thoughts on the task at hand? Because it's not a vintage Notre Dame team right now. First-year coach as well, but it's Notre Dame, and they've dominated the series against ACC opponents in North Carolina. Carolina's going to have to be at its best to have any chance of winning on Saturday. I don't care what team you're playing.
Well, I think how they play at the line of scrimmage will determine probably if they win this game.
That's my key to victory. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Mac Brown told us after the game in 2020, the day after Thanksgiving, when there were 3,500 people in the stands because of COVID, that Notre Dame was just tougher and better at the line of scrimmage. And that he said, that's what we aspire to be. I'm paraphrasing there, but I think that's almost an exact quote. Yeah. And so I asked Ray Vahasek about that Tuesday night, and he said, you know what, we're going to find out where we are about the progress made. William Barnes was also asked about those comments and about that being the mantra for the program to get to where Notre Dame is on both sides of the line of scrimmage, how they own things on both sides, how they own things on both sides of the line of scrimmage and how they dictate. They dictate so much. So where is Carolina in that respect? It's year 4 of the program under Mac Brown. That game was nearly 2 years ago. The stated mission of the program and the stated mission since then about becoming that team, that kind of team, will learn how much progress has been made. And I think that will be the most interesting aspect of this week's game. But I would not sleep on Drew Pine. We did a Twitter space Monday night, and a lot of people are like, well, Notre Dame's got a backup quarterback. Drew Pine was the number 118 overall player in the class of 2020. He's I think he's 2020 kid. So he was a Rivals 250 kid, a 4-star kid, offered by a ton of people. And oh, by the way, went to Notre Dame. It's not like they don't produce really good football players there.
Probably pretty good football player.
And he's got a game of experience under his belt, and he led them to 10 points in the fourth quarter to beat Cal, which is a quality opponent. So I would not sleep on the fact that Drew Pine is capable of coming in and chucking the thing around. I don't think Carolina wants to allow that offense to get totally healthy, but at the same time, they need to respect him. He's a kid that could have gone a lot of places, and he went to Notre Dame, which should matter. So I think the line of scrimmage and respecting the fact that the backup quarterback was a highly rated kid, and all highly rated kids need are opportunities, and he's got an opportunity now. Guess what? He's 1-0. He's 1-0 as a starter, and he led them to 10 points in the fourth quarter, which I cannot understate. That was very important. It's huge for confidence. And the other thing, Jacob, is that I think Notre Dame is a relieved team. They finally got Marcus Freeman's first win. Psychology is a huge part of sports, as you well know. You were a varsity athlete for 4 years. You understand psychology of sports. And getting that win and all the stuff that would have surrounded that team this week had they not beaten Cal, none of that's an issue. They can relax, get back to work. He's got his first win. No one's writing about it anymore. No one's asking them about it anymore. The players don't have it hovering above. They can just relax and play football. And right now they know who their quarterback is because the regular starter is going to be out for a while. So I expect Notre Dame to come in and play Notre Dame football, and we get a chance to see how far Mac Brown's program has come at doing something he said 2 years ago is mandatory that they must get better at doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would expect that progress to have been made. And AJ, I want to highlight a couple of people to watch out for Notre Dame before we've already kind of hit on it, but we'll hit on it one last time in terms of the keys to victory in our eyes. Howard Cross, the third defensive lineman for them, leads the team in tackles so far this season with 21. Isaiah Foskey, another guy on the really talented and deep defensive line group, leads the team with 2.5 sacks so far this season. Offensively, like you said, it's an offense that it hasn't done great this year in terms of statistics wise. And like they've got a guy that's just lighting it up, but they started to figure it out a little bit more against Cal in that second half. Lorenzo Styles at wide receiver, the guy I've kind of picked out statistically wise, especially with Carolina's secondary that's been struggling, leads team in receiving yards and is averaging 13.8 yards per catch, which means he's a big play receiver for them. And that's something Carolina's going to be looking to cut down on on Saturday. AJ, you hit on it. I'm going to say it one last time. Key to victory for me, get pressure on Drew Pine, an inexperienced quarterback, first essentially, road test for him as a starter this season. You got to get pressure on him. And on the side of the ball, got to give Drake Maye time. Notre Dame has a really talented defensive line unit. We've seen glimpses of some good play from Carolina's offensive line this year at times. We've also seen them struggle mightily against some lower ranked opponents, Georgia State, App State, to name a few. So that's going to be my key to victory. Drake May's been fantastic this year. Bigger test for him awaits, but if you don't give him time, you can make any quarterback, best quarterback in the league in the country, look really bad if he's back there scrambling for his life. So got to win the trenches. I know it's basic football analysis, but I think when you look at Notre Dame, North Carolina coming into Kenan Stadium, that's where big time football starts and ends. It starts in the trenches. Those are my keys to victory for North Carolina.
Yeah, before applying pressure to Drew Pine, I think they need to do well defending the run on first and second down. So if they put him in some third and longs, it's easier to apply pressure. They can dial some stuff up in those situations, and Notre Dame could be a little bit more predictable on offense. And if Carolina can make Notre Dame a little bit more predictable, then they have a better chance of getting some turnovers, making some plays, getting off the field. Conversely, they have to avoid being in that situation themselves. They have to avoid the third and longs, as I mentioned earlier. They have to run the ball better on first and second down. They're averaging 4.1 yards a carry on first down, and they need to be a little bit better. Max says the barometer is 5 yards, because if you get 5 on first down, then there's all kinds of stuff you could do on second down. So they need to consistently be a little bit better there. And it'll be interesting to see. William Barnes told us Tuesday that he's been starting at right tackle this week, which is where he was in Georgia State, because Spencer Rowland was out. Rowland started the first 2 games at right tackle, but he's now working with Jonathan Adorno at right guard. I think they like the athletic ability of William Barnes in order to be able to protect, especially picking up some of the rush on the outside at the right tackle spot. So if they do end up in some third and long situations, I think they're looking at protection, keeping Drake in the pocket longer, giving him an opportunity to go through his progression, because he's going to find guys if they're open. There's no doubt about it. His vision is fantastic, but it's a lot harder to see guys when you're running for your life. So they have to avoid those. They have to create them on one side of the ball, avoid them on the other side of the ball, and then avoid the catastrophic mistakes, the face mask, the hands to the face penalty when you get a third down stop, the roughing the passer, the late hit, the targeting, the things that can keep drives going. And also on the other side of the ball, the hold that's on the left side of the field when there's a play on the right side that goes for 18 yards and you move the chain. So instead of getting a first down 18 yards down the field, you're 10 yards back and it's a second and long or third and long or whatever the case may be. They can't beat themselves. There's not much room for error in this game. And Carolina expects the Notre Dame team that went to Ohio State to show up in Chapel Hill. That's the other thing. Notre Dame led that game 10-7 with like a minute and a half left in the third quarter. And they held Ohio State to under 400 yards. That says something to me. Max said, you know what? The next week, they just had a hard time getting up for Marshall. That happens. We've seen it happen around the country. Then I think there was some pressure going into the Cal game, the pressure that I talked about a few minutes ago that they don't have now since they got to win, but they found a way to win that game. They're going to get a good team coming in here. They're going to get a team that's better than the national perspective right now is of Notre Dame. And it's going to require that Carolina does a lot of things really well and better than the Tar Heels have done so far this season in order to earn a win. If they do, this could be an enormous win. I think this is a really important game for Mack Brown in year 4. Year 4, coming off a break, 1-2 Notre Dame. I know I talked up Drew Pine, but he's still the backup quarterback coming in here. And Mack even said it earlier today on Wednesday that, you know what, they've been a good program, but to be a great program, they have to win games like this. I think game 4, year 4, it's time to win a game like this in order for the program to show the kind of growth that I think it has made and Mack thinks it's made. But you can build the infrastructure and the facilities and you can recruit till the cows come home. But ultimately, you've got to have results on the field. And I think it's time in game 4, year 4, that Mack Brown and this program wins a game like this.
Agreed, AJ. Couldn't agree more. Let's get into prediction time before we wrap this one up. I actually had to go look while you were talking to figure out what I predicted because I couldn't remember.
You did yours right away.
Early, man. I've been trying to, set the tone for everybody else, get it in early. I know you like them in early. You got a ton of things going on. So I've been trying to really follow that mantra, set the tone over here, AJ, set the standard, as Mac Brown would say. I don't know if it's working, but I had to get it in for you early. AJ, I said,
Kevin Roy is predictably late again.
You gotta love it, man.
So it's good to see that he's maintaining his standard.
Yeah. Shout out Kevin Roy, man. Love you. AJ, I said 34-31 Notre Dame. I'll explain why. I think when I look at the overall series for North Carolina, it didn't have a lot to do. It's a new year, new team, all that jazz. That didn't give me much confidence. But I think the main thing, and this has been my criticism of North Carolina all year, I just personally haven't seen enough from Carolina's defense to be able to think they're going to beat Notre Dame at home, backup quarterback or whatever. I don't think it matters. I thought the Georgia State game in particular and the App State game as well, I thought Carolina's defense at times looked okay. And I thought at times they looked really, really bad too against some pretty average opponents. And another reason I think this game plays out, I think it's a tight game all the way through. And I think it comes down to one of Notre Dame or North Carolina's defense is needing to make a stop late on. And I just haven't seen enough from Carolina's defense to believe that they're going to do that, not trying to be negative or anything like that. Statistically, here's something to back it up as well. Notre Dame, number 59 overall offense in the country. But when you look at the opponents they played, Ohio State and Marshall, Ohio State's got the top offense in the country right now. Marshall, number 15 in the country as well. Even Cal was only at 94. So when you look at, I know that's a relatively average rating. I know Carolina would absolutely love to be ranked number 59 in overall defense. But when you look at who they played as well, I think Notre Dame's defense maybe hasn't got enough credit just because of how poor their offense has been at times than they should have, because they played against some really, really good offenses, and it's been some relatively low scoring games for the most part. So I'm saying 34-31 Notre Dame, but I could easily see Carolina winning this one, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was maybe a 34-31 win for the Tar Heels. But like I said, I just personally haven't seen enough from the defense to be able to think they're going to be able to make a stop late when they need to. And that's just how I see this game shaking out.
Well, in fairness to Carolina's defense, they did get that stop in the conversion at App State.
Yeah.
And they allowed 58 yards and no points in the fourth quarter. Georgia State, and also the sudden change defense at Georgia State, 3 turnovers and then a failed fourth down that gave the ball at Carolina's 31, and those 4 possessions, they gave up 3 points. So I asked Ray Vahasek on Tuesday, Mac said that you guys had more of an edge in those situations. How do you take that edge into other situations? I think that's a key. And he said, it's a great question. I don't know if I have an answer. So that's something they've got to be able to figure out and do. They have to create that culture on that side of the ball and be able to look at film and see how good they were in urgent situations and sense of urgency moments. They were pretty good. There are going to be a lot of sense of urgency moments in the Notre Dame game, especially if they win it, because they're going to be in a situation where they've got to continue to get off the field. So they've shown that they can actually do some stuff. It's not just been an absolute misery for this defense. It's just that when they've been really bad, they've been horrifically bad. Yeah. And they have to avoid that Saturday. If they could avoid that Saturday, I think they win the game. I think this team is better than what we've seen. I think the open date came at a great time, playing early in week 0. I know I promised I'd never say that again, but it's just so people understand. Gave them a chance last week when everybody else around the country was playing their 3rd game. They had a chance to reevaluate after 3 games. And 3 games, it maybe didn't go as well as they thought. So there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of stuff to see that this is not how you do it, but enough good stuff to see this is how you do it. And it was kind of good. Maybe the offense was coming off a so-so game for them because they had to sharpen those knives as well during the open date. Now they get some guys back. Mm-hmm. So I think Carolina's going to win this game. I think we're going to see something defensively from them that we haven't seen. And I know that they've added a couple of things as well. Part of this is the process of a new regime, new staff on that side of the ball, at least the new head of the staff on that side of the ball, as well as Charlton Warren. I think they've added a few things, and their discipline in the secondary is going to be better Saturday, and that's going to be a huge reason why they win. But ultimately, I think they're going to do a little bit better against the run on 1st and 2nd down and running the ball on 1st and 2nd down. and they're going to set up good situations on both sides of the ball in third down situations for them in order to have a successful day. So I think they're going to win. I don't have a score yet. I think your scoring range probably sounds about right. Mm-hmm. So you're calling for a really close game. Mm-hmm. So a couple fewer breakdowns, the way you see it, maybe it flips the result there. So I'm thinking in the 34-31 range, but I haven't formally made a decision on what that'll be. It'll be in our staff picks later this week.
Yeah. Check back on Friday, guys. And if you are a member of TarIllustrated.com, go ahead and get involved in our message board that we'll have posted for the staff picks. Put your predictions in there as well. For me, this is the test. Carolina's, they played some, App State, big win over A&M, but a program that they should be beating. Georgia State, a program they should be beating, and FAMU, of course, a program they should be beating. I think this is the test for North Carolina. I think coming off a bye week, like you've hit on, we're going to know so much more about this team come Sunday and going into ACC play after that. So we'll see what happens. Again, guys, head on over to TarIllustrated.com, go to Stat Picks. Once those are posted on Friday, go to our boards, get your get your score predictions in there as well. We want to hear from you guys. And also head on over to TarIllustrated.com to our Blue Heaven message boards for this specific thread where we post UNC Football Show. Get involved in the chat. Let us know how you think the game's going to work out. And if you think Carolina's going to ultimately get the win on Saturday, which I'm sure a lot of Carolina fans do, and in some ways I can't blame you, go ahead and hit the thumbs up below. Let's see how many likes.
I know one who doesn't.
Who?
I know one who doesn't. He was on our Twitter space at Carolina Birdman.
Oh, yeah. He was he's not feeling that, to say the least. I don't know what he predicted for the scoreline, but I think
but they could play Millbrook High School. He'd probably have them losing that game too.
Hey man, there's some pessimists out there, and in some ways I can kind of understand it, but I try to never glass that full time.
To that, before we close out, I'm not sensing the vibrancy from the base leading. I think that there's mild optimism heading into.
There was more confidence on our team than I thought there would be. I'll put it that way.
I agree with that, but on our boards, maybe not as much. I think it's more of people just sort of want to see what this team's about, and that's my hesitancy in picking a score. And who the hell knows? I may end up changing who I pick by the time I actually jot it down. But I think that they made some good adjustments in the open date. I think it came at the right time. I'm usually not a big fan of having a bye week before a big game. I think it's too long, but this team needed it. They need to get healthy and they need to fix some stuff. So I think they actually took advantage of it. They have another one coming up in a month. That might be bad timing then. Yeah. But right now, I think it was good timing, but I totally get why people are just, lukewarm confidence in the Tar Heels. And I think Notre Dame fans feel the same way. Mm-hmm. So these are two fan bases that might view this game similarly. And I think it carries a great deal of importance for both teams as well. Irish don't want to start 1-3. Marcus Freeman don't want to hear that. And, if Carolina loses this game, Mac's going to get some crap from people too. So I think this is a really big game for both sides. I think it's going to be a spirited game. And I think both teams are going to play pretty well. I actually anticipate a pretty good college football game in all three phases. And I hope so, because that's hard to find sometimes. The games are exciting and fun, but man, I've seen a lot of mistakes so far this year. So cut down on the mistakes, you get a chance to win.
Think we'll see a 10-7 game? Any chance of that happening?
No. But
I would kill that.
For the life of me, I never want to cover 63-61.
Yeah, no. That's a basketball score.
I've had enough of that. I've had enough of that crap.
It's a UVA basketball score. Yeah. That's not a football score.
I'm fine with 34-31 because defenses get stops and offenses make plays. You get a little bit of everything there.
I can handle that. No more 60-60s. We're done with that.
Although 15 years ago, 34-31 was high scoring. So.
Yeah, I know. Things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot in college football, to say the least.
It's funny. Dina's a good family friend of hers, plays high school football in Kentucky, and his team won a game last week, 69-63. She texted me about it, and I sent her a text back, said, I played Charlie Heck's dad in high school, and they beat us 29-19 back in the 80s, obviously. They beat us 29-19, and that was considered a high-scoring game back then.
Shit, I even feels like when I was in high school, that was a high-scoring game, and that was only like 8 years ago. So at times have changed a lot.
That's a shout-out to Fort Hunt High School playing W.T. Woodson High School. For any of my Northern Virginia peeps that are listening, watching.
Hey, we appreciate everybody who watched, especially our Nova peeps, because I know those are close to home for AJ. And,
my cronies.
I love it, AJ. Great stuff, man. Enjoyed it. Always enjoyed talking Carolina football with you on this podcast. Again, guys, if you enjoyed it, if you think Carolina's going to win, go ahead and hit the thumbs up video below. Make sure you head on over to
com and get involved on all our chats and premium message boards. And you can sign up for just $8.33 a month if you haven't already. Also, guys, myperfectfranchise.net. Shout out Andy Ludicky. Love him. Absolutely love partnering with them. Excited to continue to do so. Link to their website, myperfectfranchise.net, is in the description below. 100% free consultation process. It can't tell you what better time to do it than right now with everything going on. Take the leap, and I promise you won't regret it, especially with Andy guiding you along the way. Again, I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you let people know about this podcast. Hit the share button. Hit subscribe as well. So, every time we upload, hit that notification bell too, so you get a notification on your phone every single time we upload. And we do upload a lot this time of year. We appreciate you watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.